Hey, how's it going? It's Harsh Game Reviews, and today I'm going to be doing a review of Hades, which is a game I've been playing recently that I really enjoy. So I'll get that out of the way. I enjoy the game quite a bit. There are a few things that I would like changed, but they're fairly minor, so we'll get into that later. But now I feel like we should start with the story and the overall feel of the game.
Headed over to Elysium right now.
Now, the story in Hades is actually pretty good. I really enjoyed it, which is rare for me because I'm not a very story driven gamer. I usually go based on gameplay and how the game feels when you're playing it. Do things have weight when you hit them? Especially in a game like this where it's a roguelite and you just keep going and doing the same sort of repetitive stuff. But actually, the repetition in the story is good because it actually builds character. You keep going through the same events, and characters have different things they say to you after each death. It's a very unique system, and I really like the way that it's done in this game. Now, for the feel, I honestly think the Greek mythology is great. I think that all the gods are unique, and they all have their own individual character and personality, which really brings more to the game and makes it feel more real, like a world that you're going through instead of just a dungeon you're going through. Like with most of these roguelites, they all end up feeling kind of samey. They kind of feel like it's the same thing. Even if it's the same game, it feels like the same run every time. Whereas in this game, there's unique stuff that makes you feel like it's different. There are different gods that can help you out during the game, but we'll get into that with gameplay loop. But honestly, the connections that you make in this game are very different from most roguelites, and they make you feel like it's just a better game overall. I feel like the direction in that is great. I feel like the sound is fantastic as well. I could not stop listening to it the first time I played, and I've played quite a bit of the game, and it hasn't worn on me at all. I've really enjoyed it this entire time. It's just phenomenal sound direction. I feel like how the character moves and the animations are all great. Honestly, no problems there. In fact, I applaud the people who made the animations the way they did. I really do like them. The dialogue, this in terms of like how people say things, is very unique for each character. Some people are nice and jovial, and you can hear that in their voice and in their tone. And that's important. Those little details really do matter in making a story feel more complete. And I'm glad they put the effort into making this not just another roguelite with a Greek mythological theme, but they made it a world that you can traverse, which is very, as I said before, different. Now let's get into the actual gameplay, because that's a very important segment for any roguelite. And I want to show you what they actually did well. When it comes down to the gameplay loop, there are 6 different weapons to choose from, and each weapon has its own unique style of play. But for the most part, the sword and the gauntlets were what I really went with the spear and kind of the gun being secondary. And you unlock those a little bit later after you complete a couple things. You'll start with the sword, which I personally thought was a great weapon, and you could go the entire game just using the sword, and that's perfectly fine. But the gameplay is smooth, it's very fluid, very fast-paced game. You wouldn't like this if you like very slow games or slower type games, kind of like a Minecraft Dungeons sort of feel in terms of slowness, then you won't like this game. Because all the combat is either very rushed, or you're using a ranged weapon, in which case you have to be very careful, because ranged weapons in this game are a bit flimsy when it comes to the overall damage that they deal versus how effective they are. And if you stand still with one of these boss fights, you're just gonna die, and you're gonna die fast. Even in the later sections, when you're more geared up to fight bosses and you prepare for it, it doesn't really matter if you stand still. You're going to take way too much damage and you're going to die, most likely. This game is pretty brutal in terms of how hard it is. It's pretty difficult, which is a good thing. I personally think, because each death rewards you with new things in terms of, like, story. So even if you don't want to experience the story in a way, you still kind of are. But it's not ham-fisted, it's done really well. I personally think that the systems that they have in place for when you die are very interesting, but that'll be in progression, which is the next segment that we're going to do here. But to wrap up the gameplay loop section, I find it to be really, really fun, perfectly addictive, and exactly what I was looking for in a roguelite. Now, for progression, I personally feel like this is an area that could use a tiny bit of work, but honestly, in a way, because it's so tough, it might actually be really, really good. If you like the sort of game that drags things out a little bit, in a good way, but drags things out a little bit to make it harder for you to progress overall. It's not like they're putting stopgaps like EA would do. It's more along the lines of materials are very difficult to get, because you get them from killing bosses with different weapons, which really does change the overall importance of having certain weapons.
They are helping you because you are family. Family with whom they do not yet.
Each weapon gives you a different benefit when it comes to fighting overall later in the game. After you beat I'm not going to spoil it, but after you beat the first boss, you are granted some of her blood, and it makes the overall weapons upgradable, and then you can choose which weapon you want to specialize in and what you want it to specialize in for the weapon itself. So that as well makes the game very different. It makes it slowly so that each time you go through a run, you experience that you've grown as a character. And I think the main character is also very good. I know I should put this in story, but I really just want to say it right now. I feel like Zagreus is a great character to work with, and it's way better than some of these people who are just like not talkative and they're just silent main characters. I really don't like that. I like the way he's done, and it makes the story feel even better. I feel just a sense of pride whenever you complete a mission and you beat a boss. It's really hard, which makes it really happy when you win. It makes it really eventful when you win. And that's also very important to have. And I'm glad they mastered that here. I feel like progression should be a little faster, personally, but I feel like I understand why they would do that and how some people might like it, because it lets you experience more of the story. And through the gameplay loop, you collect things that are used later in progression, which is just great. The darkness you collect, the gems, all of it can be used in the story and can be used in upgrading your character. And sometimes you get these choices of, do you want to advance the story, or do you want to make your character stronger with the materials that you have? And you have that choice to go one way or the other. And that's also fantastic, and I love that system. Now let's get into the couple things that I feel like could be better, but they're not really that big of a deal, but they are nitpicks, I'll say. Now, this game is a great game. Honestly, it's almost perfect, but the few things that I have in terms of problems with it are things that can be easily solved and probably will be solved in the future. So maybe, and in the end, if they fix these couple of things, I would give this game a perfect score. But as it stands right now, I'm not entirely sold on it in terms of these few little changes that I don't really like. I feel like dash attack is way too all-encompassing. You have to keep moving around, and I feel like there should be an option to use a ranged weapon and stand still and have some chance of survival. But there's really none right now. I feel like it should be a little bit more balanced in terms of the ranged weapons being more useful. I feel like there should be a couple more weapons, which would be a very good addition to the game. I feel like 6 is a good number, but if there were more, there would definitely be more variety and choice. I mean, there's only 2 ranged weapons, and it's either one-shot wonder or keep shooting until the thing hopefully dies, maybe someday. I feel like there should be at least 3 ranged weapon choices, maybe 4 to counterbalance the fact that there are 4 melee choices. I mean, they did do the thing where certain weapons that are melee can be fired out and then fired back as a ranged, but I feel like that's more of a hybrid combo thing, and I feel like there should be at least 1 more dedicated ranged weapon, personally. But that's basically it. I don't really have anything negative to say. Every aspect of the game that I wanted polished is polished. It's perfect in all those aspects. I just wish it had a bit more in terms of variety of weapons. That is literally the only thing that I can really worry about besides dash attack and the ability to survive while doing a sort of slow and deadly build with a ranged weapon. That's about it for me in terms of that. Now, for my final score, I would give this game a 10, but because of the nitpicks, I'll give it a 9, and it really does deserve a 9. If not a 10, if they fix even 2 of the things. If they don't make something that's standing still and you can fight with a ranged weapon, that's fine. I don't really mind that all that much. But they need to fix the fact that dash attack is such a big part of the game, and it's very necessary to survive in the later levels. And I also think they should add 1 more ranged weapon, personally. But those are just little things. I think this game deserves a 10 if they fix those. Right now, it's a 9, and it's a fantastic game. I recommend it to anyone who likes roguelites, anyone who likes story games, because it's got all of those. Not to people who like very slow games, though, because it's fairly fast-paced, and sometimes it leaves you feeling like you're a little drained after playing it. But that's not a bad thing. I personally love that. It's just, you need to know if that's your thing, because this game might not be for you if you like relaxing games, and you don't really like games that are fast-paced and adrenaline pumping games. But yeah, that's my overall review. I hope you have a good time, and I hope to see you next time. Yeah, have a good one.
And clear.
Just wanted to say thank you all for all your support on the most recent video. I really appreciate it. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you would like. There's another video up there. If you want to check it out, go ahead.